everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're exploring a future that might seem dystopian or utopian depending on your perspective. What happens when jobs become a luxury that only some people have? We're witnessing unprecedented technological advancement. Artificial intelligence, robotics, and automation are advancing faster than ever. These technologies promise to eliminate millions of jobs across all sectors. But here's the twist. What if having a job becomes something rare and valuable, a privilege rather than a necessity? What would society look like when work isn't something everyone does? Drop a comment below telling me whether you think automation will create more jobs than it destroys, or whether we're heading toward mass unemployment. Now let's explore this fascinating and unsettling future. The current wave of automation differs fundamentally from previous industrial revolutions. This time, artificial intelligence and robotics threaten not just manual labor, but cognitive work, creative tasks, and even jobs requiring emotional intelligence. Understanding the scope reveals how radically the employment landscape could transform. Manufacturing jobs have been disappearing for decades as robots became cheaper and more capable. Factories that once employed thousands now operate with hundreds of workers overseeing automated systems. This trend is accelerating. Advanced robots can now handle complex assembly, quality control, and even maintenance tasks. Chinese factories are replacing workers with robots by the millions, and this trend is global. Transportation faces imminent disruption. Self-driving vehicles threaten to eliminate millions of driving jobs: truck drivers, taxi drivers, delivery drivers, and bus drivers. In the U.S. alone, over 3 million people drive trucks professionally. Globally, tens of millions earn their living driving vehicles. When autonomous vehicles become reliable and legal, these jobs will vanish rapidly. Retail is already experiencing massive job losses. E-commerce has reduced the need for retail workers. Amazon operates warehouses with robots doing most work, while humans handle exceptions. Automated checkout systems eliminate cashiers. Amazon Go stores have no checkout at all. You just take items and leave, with AI handling payment. This model could spread to most retail, eliminating millions of jobs. Customer service is being automated through chatbots and AI systems. Natural language processing has advanced to where AI can handle most customer inquiries without human intervention. Call centers employing millions globally face obsolescence. Companies are rapidly replacing human agents with AI that works 24/7, never gets tired, and doesn't require salary or benefits. White-collar work isn't immune. AI can now perform legal research, analyze contracts, prepare tax returns, diagnose diseases from medical images, write basic news articles, and even generate computer code. Jobs once considered safe because they required education and cognitive skills are now vulnerable. Radiologists, paralegals, accountants, journalists, and even programmers face partial or complete automation. Creative work was supposed to be the human domain, but AI is making inroads. AI can now generate art, compose music, write scripts, and design products. While AI-generated creative work isn't yet matching the best human work, it's improving rapidly and is already good enough for many commercial applications. Even creativity may not protect jobs. The speed of change is the key difference. Previous industrial revolutions unfolded over decades, allowing societies to adapt. Current automation is happening faster. An AI system can be deployed globally almost instantly, potentially eliminating millions of jobs in years rather than decades. Society may not have time to adapt smoothly. Understanding the automation wave reveals that virtually no job category is truly safe. Some jobs will resist longer than others, but the direction is clear. The question isn't whether widespread job displacement will happen, but when and how fast. As automation eliminates jobs faster than new ones are created, fundamental economic assumptions that have governed for centuries will break down. We'll need to reimagine how people earn income, how goods are distributed, and what gives life meaning beyond work. The labor market is based on supply and demand. When automation makes labor supply exceed demand dramatically, wages fall. We're already seeing wage stagnation for workers whose jobs face automation pressure. Eventually, many workers simply can't find employment at any wage because machines are cheaper and better. Universal basic income has become a popular proposed solution. The idea is simple. The government gives every citizen a regular payment regardless of employment status. This provides basic living expenses, allowing people to survive without jobs. Funding would come from taxes on the productivity gains from automation. Several pilot programs have tested UBI with mixed results. Wealth distribution becomes the central economic challenge. If machines produce everything, who owns the machines determines who has wealth. Currently, capital owners benefit from automation, while workers suffer job losses. Without intervention, automation could create extreme inequality, a small class of capital owners with all wealth and a massive unemployed underclass. The meaning of work would fundamentally change. Instead of jobs providing income, work might be volunteer activities, creative pursuits, or caring for family and community. People might work on passion projects without needing to monetize them. The Protestant work ethic that has dominated Western culture for centuries would become obsolete.
Deflation might accompany mass automation. If production costs approach zero due to machines doing everything, prices should fall dramatically. In theory, even without income, people could afford necessities if they become cheap enough. However, this assumes capital owners pass savings to consumers rather than capturing all value. Status and identity would need reimagining. Currently, people derive status and identity primarily from their occupation. What do you do is often the first question people ask. In a world where most people don't have jobs, status hierarchies would need to be based on something else, perhaps creative output, contributions to community, or cultivation of skills and knowledge. Economic growth might decouple from employment. GDP could grow even as employment falls, because machines produce more output with fewer workers. This would require rethinking economic success. Should we measure societal well-being by GDP if most people don't participate in producing it? Understanding the economics of joblessness reveals that eliminating work doesn't necessarily mean poverty. With proper systems, automation could create abundance where everyone's needs are met without working. But without such systems, it could create dystopian inequality and suffering. Chapter 3. The Social Divide. Jobs as Status Symbols. In a future where most jobs are automated, the remaining jobs, particularly those requiring uniquely human capabilities or those involving human interaction and luxury services, would become extremely valuable, not just economically, but socially. Having a job would confer status and privilege. Elite jobs would become ultra-competitive. Positions requiring creativity, complex judgment, emotional intelligence, or human connection would be highly sought. These might include artists, therapists, teachers, advisors, and managers overseeing AI systems. Competition for these positions would be intense, perhaps requiring extensive education and connections. Luxury services provided by humans would command premium prices. Just as handmade goods cost more than mass-produced items today, human-provided services would become luxury goods. A meal cooked by a human chef, therapy with a human rather than AI, or education from a human teacher would be expensive services only the wealthy could afford. The employed class would have privileges beyond income. Having a job would provide social connection, purpose, structure to days, and identity. The unemployed majority would lack these psychological benefits. This could create a social hierarchy based on employment status, with the employed looking down on the unemployed, regardless of the latter's wealth from UBI. Purpose and meaning would diverge. Those with jobs would maintain traditional sources of meaning, while the unemployed would need to construct meaning from other sources. This divergence could create mutual incomprehension, the employed unable to understand how the unemployed find meaning, and vice versa. Education would shift focus. Instead of job training, education might focus on cultivating human capabilities machines can't replicate: creativity, emotional intelligence, philosophy, arts, and human connection. Or education might become primarily about getting one of the rare remaining jobs, creating intense educational competition. Geographic divides would emerge. Some regions might have more available jobs than others based on industry concentration or policy choices. This could create mass migration toward job-rich areas, creating social tensions. Alternatively, remote work technology might allow some jobs to be done from anywhere, democratizing access. Generational conflicts could intensify. Older generations who spent careers working might resent younger generations who never experienced traditional employment. Different generational attitudes toward work, leisure, and purpose could create social friction and incomprehension. Understanding the social divide reveals that even in a post-work society with adequate income for all, psychological and social challenges would be profound. Humans evolved to work and create. Removing that might eliminate suffering or create new forms of psychological distress, depending on how society adapts.
Governments would face unprecedented challenges adapting to widespread technological unemployment. The political responses would shape whether the future is dystopian or utopian. Different countries might take radically different approaches. Universal Basic Income, UBI, is the most discussed policy. Providing everyone with unconditional cash payments would ensure basic needs are met regardless of employment. Pilot programs in Finland, Kenya, and various cities provide insights. Challenges include determining payment amounts, funding mechanisms, and effects on work incentives and inflation. Job guarantee programs represent an alternative approach. Instead of paying people not to work, the government would guarantee everyone who wants a job can have one, even if created artificially. This maintains work's psychological and social benefits, but might create make-work positions without real value. Reducing work hours rather than eliminating jobs entirely is another path. If productivity doubles due to automation, perhaps everyone works half as much for the same total societal output. France's 35-hour workweek and various proposals for 4-day workweeks represent moves in this direction. Robot taxes have been proposed. If robots replace workers, taxing the robots, or more precisely, taxing companies on productivity gains from automation, could fund UBI or other social programs. Bill Gates and others have advocated this approach. Critics argue it would slow beneficial innovation. Education and retraining programs represent the optimistic view that automation creates new jobs requiring different skills. Governments could invest heavily in preparing workers for these new roles. However, if automation eliminates more jobs than it creates, retraining isn't sufficient. Ownership restructuring might address wealth concentration. If machines produce everything, perhaps ownership should be democratic rather than concentrated. Proposals include sovereign wealth funds owning automated industries, worker cooperatives, or distributing corporate shares to all citizens. Different political ideologies would clash over responses. Conservatives might favor market solutions and minimal intervention, believing new jobs will naturally emerge. Progressives might advocate strong redistribution and government programs. Libertarians might oppose both UBI and job guarantees, preferring voluntary solutions. These conflicts would be intense since stakes are existential. International coordination would be necessary. If one country implements expensive programs like generous UBI, while others don't, migration pressures would be enormous. Race-to-the-bottom dynamics could emerge, where countries compete by offering fewer protections to attract capital. International agreements might be needed. Understanding political responses reveals there's no obvious or easy solution. Every approach has trade-offs and uncertainties. The political battles over how to structure a post-work society would be among the most consequential in human history. Perhaps the greatest challenge of a jobless future isn't economic, but psychological. Work provides not just income, but purpose, identity, structure, social connection, and meaning. Removing work could liberate humans to pursue higher callings or create widespread depression and purposelessness. Identity crises would be widespread. What do you do is a fundamental question in modern society. When most people don't have jobs, how do they answer? What becomes the basis of personal identity? People would need to construct identities based on hobbies, relationships, values, or creative pursuits rather than occupation. Purpose and meaning are currently derived from work for many. Contributing to society through employment provides a sense that one's life matters. Without jobs, people would need to find alternative sources of meaning, perhaps through volunteering, creative expression, caring for others, or personal development. Structure and routine that jobs provide would disappear. Many people struggle with unstructured time. Weekends and vacations are manageable because they're temporary breaks from the structure work provides. Permanent leisure might be psychologically difficult for people who need external structure. Social connection happens primarily through work for many adults. Co-workers, professional networks, and work-related socializing constitute most social interaction outside family. Without jobs, new forms of community and connection would need to develop, or many would face isolation. Research on lottery winners and the retired provides insights. Lottery winners often report that winning money doesn't bring happiness, and they struggle with purpose. Many retirees experience depression and health decline, partly because of lost work structure and purpose. These suggest joblessness could be psychologically challenging, even with financial security. However, alternative perspectives exist. Many people hate their jobs and dream of not working. Artists, writers, and creators often say they'd create more if freed from the necessity of employment. Parents might prefer time with children over work. Some might thrive with freedom to pursue passions. Mental health impacts could vary by personality. Some people might flourish with freedom and self-direction. Others might spiral into depression without external structure. Extroverts might struggle more with lost workplace social connections, while introverts might adapt better. Cultural attitudes toward work and leisure would need evolution. Protestant work ethic that valorizes productivity and views leisure as laziness would need to change. Society would need to develop new values, celebrating non-work activities and redefining what makes a life well lived. Understanding psychological dimensions reveals that even if economic and political challenges are solved, the psychological adaptation to joblessness might be the hardest aspect. Humans might need to evolve culturally and psychologically to thrive in a post-work world.
Whether jobs becoming a luxury is utopian or dystopian depends on how society navigates the transition. The coming decades will determine whether automation creates abundance and freedom or inequality and suffering. Gradual adaptation is most likely. Rather than sudden mass unemployment, we'll probably see decades of increasing automation pressure, wage stagnation, and growing gaps between those with valuable skills and those without. This gradual change allows time to develop solutions, but also risks complacency. Individual strategies matter now. For those currently working, developing skills difficult to automate, creativity, emotional intelligence, complex judgment, human connection, provides some protection. Diversifying income sources and developing financial resilience helps weather disruption. Cultivating meaning beyond work prepares psychologically. Policy experimentation is already beginning. UBI pilots, automation taxes, reduced workweek experiments, and various other approaches are being tested in different locations. Learning from these experiments will inform larger-scale implementation. Governance becomes crucial. Should we slow certain types of automation to allow society to adapt? Should we tax automation or let it proceed unrestricted? How do we ensure AI serves human flourishing rather than just profit maximization? These governance questions will shape outcomes. Education must transform. If most current jobs will be automated, what should education focus on? Perhaps developing uniquely human capacities, teaching people how to find meaning without traditional work, or cultivating adaptability to constant change. Cultural evolution in attitudes toward work, leisure, and purpose will happen slowly, but necessarily. The transition might be led by younger generations who approach work differently than their parents. New cultural narratives about what makes life meaningful will develop. The optimistic scenario is abundant productivity from automation, combined with policy distributing benefits broadly, allowing humans to pursue higher callings beyond drudgery. The pessimistic scenario is extreme inequality, with most people economically and socially marginalized. Understanding the path forward reveals that the future isn't predetermined. Human choices, political, technological, cultural, and individual, will shape whether the automation age becomes a golden age of human flourishing or a dystopian nightmare of inequality and purposelessness. We've explored a future where jobs become a luxury rather than necessity, where automation eliminates most employment and having a job becomes a rare privilege. The economics of joblessness would require reimagining income distribution and the meaning of work. Social divides would emerge between the employed elite and unemployed majority. Political responses would range from UBI to job guarantees to robot taxes. Psychological challenges of finding meaning without work might be the hardest aspect. The path forward requires navigating this transition thoughtfully. This isn't science fiction. The trends are already visible. Manufacturing automation, self-driving vehicles, AI handling customer service and white-collar tasks, and accelerating technological change all point toward this future. Whether it arrives in 20, 50, or 100 years, the direction seems clear. The question isn't whether this future will arrive, but whether we'll shape it positively or stumble into it unprepared. With foresight, planning, and proper policies, a post-work world could free humans from drudgery to pursue meaning, creativity, and connection. Without preparation, it could create unprecedented inequality and purposelessness. Understanding these dynamics allows you to prepare personally and advocate for policies that steer toward the better outcome. The future of work, or the future of joblessness, will be determined by choices made now. Now I want to hear from you.
Do you think automation will eliminate more jobs than it creates? Would you welcome a future where you didn't need to work, or do you find meaning in your job? How would you spend your time if income wasn't necessary? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this exploration thought-provoking, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with anyone interested in the future of work and society. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications on so you never miss our deep dives into technology and the future. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.